Alright guys, so today we're going to go over a new ball lightning build that I kind of came up with. It was based on the fact that a lot of people said that they did not have Uber uniques, and also I watched Wujo, I think that's how you pronounce his name, video this morning about why Shaco probably actually isn't the best option because you don't get total armor, but we'll see. We're going to go ahead and get into this. The difference between this and the rest of my build guides, there's not going to be a like in-game showing of the build because it's going to use the new glyph. So everything that I do is going to be pretty much on max roll. I'll show you guys the armor and how much damage it currently does to like the training bots and stuff, but there's no sense in going through dungeons because it's not going to be an accurate representation of the build. Also, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you like what you see. I'm trying to upload videos frequently, a little bit of like a writer's block, we'll say, but we'll especially when Xur comes out, we'll probably do pretty okay. And we're trying to hit 1,000 by the end of the year, so any sub is greatly appreciated. But let's get into it. Alright, so as I stated before, this build doesn't use any Ubers at all. It does use uniques, but no Ubers, mostly because I like disobedience on the amulet. I don't want to go through the whole unkillable thing in every single build. I've already done it on my barb. And also, it's just like, it's a lot. I'd rather just try to play legitimately. We've also took Shaco off. You can use Shaco and still reach armor cap if your armor roll is really good on your chest and your amulet. I hit like 14,500 and my armor roll is like 22% out of 29. But at the same time, total armor on the helmet helps a little bit. We don't know exactly what the cap is going to be, but you could use Shaco with this build. So let's go ahead and get into it here. Alright, so we're going to start off with the gear. We are using Aspect of Might on the helmet to make up for the 20% damage reduction that I lose by not using Shaco. Obviously, we don't get the +4 to all skills, so we do lose out on some damage, but trying to keep that damage reduction up. You could also use Ever Living if you wanted to. I don't like not being able to control it, though. Like something way off in the distance isn't vulnerable or isn't crowd controlled, and suddenly it doesn't work. So I prefer to use this since this build is using a basic skill, which we'll get into later. So we got total armor, of course. That's the whole reason we're not using Shaco. Cooldown reduction, max life, and all stats. All stats to meet some stuff on the Paragon board. Get some things up, right? Pretty much I'm trying to imitate a Shaco as best as possible, but on a normal helmet. And instead of resource shin, we have total armor. And we don't have our +4 ranks, but that's okay. We're going to go down to the armor now. You want total armor, damage reduction from burning, since we're using the Firebolt enchantment, and damage reduction from close. And we have Mage Lords on here. You might be able to get away with something other than Mage Lords. Maybe you do Ever Living and Might if you wanted to. That would probably be a good option, but we're doing Veer's Mastery just because it is a lot of damage reduction from close, or damage reduction for each close enemy. It's flat damage reduction per close enemy. Alright, we're going to go down to the gloves now. I have Gravitational in here. Obviously, you can change around where the offensive aspects go. On here is just a reference so you can see them, but you can put them wherever. Gravitational though, and then we have crit chance, attack speed, lucky hit chance, and lucky hit to restore resource. You could change out something probably for like lightning crit damage. I think that's what's on my gloves because I don't have one with lucky hit chance on it. I have one with primary resource, attack speed, crit chance, and then lightning critical strike damage. But you could get probably lucky hit chance is your better option. And then we're used to Bolt's Will since we're hitting armor like 16,500 armor. We're not too worried about having to have total armor, and also that 40% multiplicative damage is really nice. Depending on how much damage though that we do with the new glyph that's coming out, we might change to normal pants just because the damage might be just so insane, and we might be a little too squishy once we get up to like tier 15, you know, something like that. That we're gonna just want damage reduction on our pants as well, but we'll see. But for now, we have to Bolt's Will on there, and then this is where it's a little bit weird. Using Pentient Greaves because we're using stuff that does damage to cold enemies. We've discovered that there is no boss. It's the Bloodseekers, right? So they can be crowd controlled, they can be chilled, right? They can be frozen. So we're using Pentient Greaves to get that extra 10% multiplicative damage to chilled enemies. And also we're using Hoarfrost on the skill tree, but we'll get there in a minute. We have Stormswell on the Bone Blade, a dagger. All stats intelligence are what really matters. You could do any combo of like damage to close, mastery skill damage, critical strike damage. Doesn't really matter that much because all of the damage of that is additive and you're doing it all the time. Crit damage is actually probably the worst because there might be a small chance you don't crit and you don't get damage there, but in reality it doesn't really matter that much. It's all flat damage that gets added to your multiplicative damage. So as long as you have it, it's fine. Damage close, mastery damage, lightning, critical strike damage, or critical strike damage. Um, yeah, I think that's really about it. But we have Storm Swell on there, and then of course you could use a wand. It'd be perfectly fine. We just use dagger, or I use a dagger because it gives me damage to close to it. It does do more damage, but maybe you want more lucky hit chance, so you could use a wand. Over here to the conceded, we have conceded on the focus. If I could English, that would be great. Damage reduction from burning enemies, mana cost reduction, cooldown reduction, and critical strike chance. You could change out maybe cooldown reduction if you don't want it for resource generation. I actually would probably recommend maybe putting resource generation and taking off mana cost or cooldown reduction, but that's really up to you. Probably not mana cost because the resource gen mana cost, like, they would go out, but cooldown reduction I can understand. Then we have Talrasha's Ring, of course. 60% multiplicative damage with this build. Not really much else to say about it. Recharging band. This is where things are different. I was using accelerating. I wasn't using any like resource aspects on the rings or anything like that, but I have a feeling that we might need it. If not, I will probably go back to accelerating, but for now, this is where we're at. And then lastly, our disobedience on the amulet. Of course, I have all mastery skills, devouring blaze, total armor, and movement speed. I will probably change one of the plus ranks. I'm not sure which one yet to damage reduction as I get higher up in the tiers. But starting out, I think this will be okay, and it'll give us some more damage till we get off our feet, get our glyph leveled up, get damage from that, so we can afford to take damage off of something else to add more damage reduction. Let's move over to the vamp powers because I always forget to show vamp powers. We have a Cursed Touch to keep enemies vulnerable with Prey on the Weak. I know that the multiplicative damage doesn't really do anything because it's not actually multiplicative, but affecting them with a Vampiric Curse to keep them vulnerable is relevant. And then we have Ravenous. Of course, every build should use Ravenous if you're doing Ball Lightning. Metamorphosis to make us unstoppable for the pants and just to break CCs. And then we have Infection to give us that 15% multiplicative damage from Talrasha's Ring. Alright, so over to the skill tree. We have 1 point into Firebolt, then we have 1 point into Frostbolt. Firebolt to get to the enchantment. Frostbolt is the basic I use for Aspect of Might. It also gives me one of the Talrasha Ring procs. It gives me one of the Elementalist Glyph procs, which we're not on the Paragon board yet, so we'll get to that. And then we have Destructive Chain Lightning and 1 into Devastation because we needed 1 more point to get down to the defensive skills. And the defensive skills we're doing Flame Shield and Mystical Flame Shield, Teleport and Shimmering Teleport. That's pretty standard stuff. And then 3 into Glass Cannon. We're using Frost Nova, which since there's no boss, this will actually freeze the Bloodseekers so that our Hoarfrost does more damage, and it also is just a defensive skill. It also makes things vulnerable, so I just feel like it's a really good addition. It's what I use in some of my other Ball Lightning builds anyway, so pretty standard there. And then we have 1 into Align the Elements to get to Mana Shield and Protection. This is how we're gonna keep ourselves alive pretty much, get that extra damage reduction for spending mana. And then using a cooldown granting us a barrier, then we're reinforced gives us more damage reduction, and so on and so forth. 1 into Inner Flames to get the Devouring Blaze. Ball Lightning into Wizard's Ball Lightning, as many points as you can here. Static Discharge for Invigorating Conduit, so we can get some mana. And then this is why we have the Pentient Greaves on. Since we're chilling everything will take an additional 9% multiplicative damage from Hoarfrost, and it'll take another 10% or up to 10% from the Pentient Greaves. So, and then when we freeze enemies with Frost Nova, they'll take 18%. So that is a total of 28% extra multiplicative damage that we can do to the Bloodseekers while they are frozen, and any other enemy that we end up freezing. And then everything will just take that. Everything, as long as you get close enough to chill them, of course. Also, our Frostbolt will chill them from a distance if you wanted to chill them and then get up on them. Then we have Unstable Currents and Supreme Unstable Currents. You could probably get away with not putting the point into here, but I do. It's a habit. 1 into Course and Currents to get the Conduction for movement speed, so that our Ravenous gives us more attack speed, and then Electrocution to make enemies do less damage. And then Veer's Mastery for the... I've heard that the damage reduction, or not the damage reduction, but the close enemies take damage thing doesn't work. I'm not sure, but I do know that Mage Lords does work. We're going to go over to the Paragon board now. We have Elementalist here in the starter board. This will probably be the glyph that would go away for something else if it needed to be. The board will probably go through many changes as we get farther into the tiers, right? Because right now this might be okay, but we might need to get more damage or more damage reduction as we get to like tier, 10, 15, 20, if we make it that far. But we don't know yet, so this is just what we got going on, and I'm very, very confident that this build could do tier 1 to 10 probably of the Abattoir of Zero. But we come up through here, we have Ceaseless Conduit with Destruction in it. We kind of just take a direct path, also grabbing these ones over here. But for the most part, it's just this direct path here. We got Destruction here. The reason we want Destruction is to get that extra multiplicative damage when we're constantly critically striking crap. Come over here to Enchantment Master, and we have Reinforced in here. This is pretty much where everybody puts it. Puts Reinforced. I've seen some people putting it in the starter board lately, but I still prefer it here. And we just kind of grab what we need to actually get the additional bonus online, and then we get extra resistance to all elements and non-physical damage. Down here, this is where we put Tears of Blood, which is in Burning Instinct. I feel like most people put it here. It's a good place to put it because these you benefit a lot from having these boosted Cinders and Smoldering Embers to get damage reduction from burning and damage to burning enemies, because the Firebolt enchantment makes everything burn. And then, of course, we come over here, grab this armor and damage reduction from elites. Come down through here. Frigid Fate, we have Adept in here. Same concept. We just have enough to get the additional bonus and then just going straight through it. We're coming down here to grab Frigid Fate. I would like to get some more non-physical damage somewhere so that this number goes up. But I still think the extra couple nodes going this way is worth 18% multiplicative damage, even if it just stays there. But hopefully we can bump that number up at some point. Come up through here, we have Flame Feeder and Searing Heat. We don't care about anything other than getting Flame Feeders, additional bonus. I do have an extra node put in here because I had a spare one left over to give us a little bit more damage to burning. But it's mostly just so we can zip through. And then lastly, we have Territorial and Static Surge, just because they're all right here, and we want the legendary nodes so we can make enemies vulnerable and trigger our Chain Lightning here. That's pretty much what gives us so much mana, right? We can keep our mana up. And that's really about it. This, like I said, this stuff's subject to change as time goes on. But for now, this is where we're at. And yeah, that's really about it. I appreciate anybody who stuck around for the video. Again, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that generic YouTube stuff if you like what you see here. Everybody have a good day. We have the Abattoir Reserve to do tomorrow, so I'm going to try to get some rest, take a break from Diablo, so that I'm a little burnt out, but less burnt out for the Abattoir tomorrow. So good luck. Try not to die a lot because it's very expensive in sigil powder, and you don't want to embarrass yourself in front of your friends, right? So everybody have a good day.